Will you be absolutely genuine with me? No deception, please. I want you to do something that expresses you without the slightest deception.
I'd like to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Hollow Labs, created by Alan Collins. They focus on dosing supplements properly, and their main goal in life is to elevate performance and recovering through all of their stacks. What up, dog?
What's up, buddy?
All right, so you and I come from same background, and we now walk two very different paths of relationship lives. And something that I truly admire about you, and that I think a lot of people are in lack of, is being able to experience the beauty and the sanctity of having a relationship that is centered around God. And I think as somebody who has never had that, and I'm speaking from a place of just complete lack of knowledge, I would love for you to kind of go into the depth of that, what that's done to you, how it's assisted with your growth and your development in life, what you've noticed now from being in the past, going through other relationships, and now being in this one, which is truly centered, grounded, and divine. I think most men and women would benefit hearing that.
So I like to start off by saying I wasn't always, like Senator. My relationships were definitely not always, if ever, centered around God. This is actually the first time. The most interesting part about this relationship is that, how people usually say you got to be friends first before you're lovers and this and that. In this relationship, I really got to know the person I was with, my girlfriend, and in doing so, we became friends. We got to know each other. We went to church together. We built this beautiful moral high ground around our relationship. And I think it's the only way to really have a successful relationship, because, you feel convicted when you do things wrong. You have honest, open conversations. And I think most relationships get too involved in lust. And then by the time, you're a year, maybe even 2 years in, you're almost sick of the person, and you don't really know them at all. You break up with them before you even have a chance to love them. And or you get married when you're falling out of love to try to save what love you have left. And I think this relationship has really showed me that there is people out there who are very capable of being in relationships, who are struggling just because it's a lack of understanding of what a real relationship is. And I think so many are failing because they don't have God in the center of this relationship.
Now, how do you think, again, for me, like not ever being in a relationship that has been centered around faith or has been centered around God, as somebody who, when I do have that moment in my life where I meet the right person, and that has become my main focal point of meeting somebody now, right? You having this, what do you think that has done specifically for you as a man?
Me having a relationship centered around God. It's made me grow exponentially. I think I hold myself accountable. I want to do the right things, not just so I'm not in an argument, but because I want to grow the relationship. I don't think I knew what love was before, I brought God into my relationship. I truly don't think you could love if you don't have God in your life. And what I mean by that is God is love, right? Everything that he writes, he's unforgiving, he's not jealous, he's not prideful, boastful. And I think all those things, if you take God out of that and you put love in that, it tells you in the Bible how to take care of a relationship and how to maintain it. It's made me tenfold better man. I don't look at other people and think, oh, that person's beautiful, this and that. I wish I could be with that person. I think, look what I've built with this person, and I don't want to ruin that. You know what I mean? It's so much more than looks. It's emotions. It's love, it's a feeling of happiness when you're with them. It's like you're losing part of yourself when you're not with them. And I think that's the same feeling you should have with God in your life. And I think if you could replace the feelings that you have with, not replace or reflect those feelings in a relationship, I think it's flawless. It's not going to break apart.
So you look at something like biblical unity, where everything is about having an equal counterpart, right? And I think we as men sometimes are so driven by lust and having the need to be in a position of dominance. And I myself have been guilty of that, you know. I think we tend to misinterpret the ideology of leading for overpowering sometimes. And I think what I'm hearing from you is that you're in a position where you hold someone in a regard, understanding that God is all things, not jealous, not boastful, not prideful, and that you're able to communicate with someone on an equal level as an equal counterpart. And that's what keeps the relationship and the foundation pure, grounded, no resent, and constantly able to kind of plant and pour into each other and watch it prosper into something new every day.
Right, and I think if you shed that ego and you admit that you have something to learn from the person that you're with, and it's not this competition, then every day's a learning experience, every day's a growing experience, and every day's a loving experience. And I think that's the true way to fall into love, but it's very scary too at times. Like when, me and you were talking about, you trying to find somebody. I think, yeah, it's scary. I mean, somebody with the wrong, what's the word I'm looking for? Motives, it could break you.
100%.
And I think the only way to find out that they don't have the wrong motives is hopefully they're a woman of God. And then her motives are put God above everything. And then you're right there. You're right under that. She wants to make her husband proud of her. She wants to make him happy and love him with all her heart. And if you can do the same back and love God together, then there's going to be constantly apologizing to each other for wrongdoings. There's hard conversations that you'll have that suddenly aren't hard. They're just, they're just trying to grow and understanding.
Because you're not meeting it from a place of internalized personal interpretation. You're meeting it from a place of openness and being able to receive each other, I assume.
Right. And most relationships, toxic relationships, most relationships I'd say are toxic.
I would agree.
All right. It's just somebody trying to cover up a lie or stop the fight.
Yeah.
Or prove that, they could do better than, And it's funny. It's like, why be with somebody if you're not willing to grow with them? Why be with somebody if you're not willing to become a man with them? And I truly believe that you can't become a man until you have a child and you love something more than you love yourself.
Complete selflessness.
And, I think this relationship has made me understand that I have to work on myself. I have to get closer to God, and I have to do that for my child so I don't continue the trauma cycle or the toxic cycle within my family. And not only that, so I can better understand my purpose here on this earth.
Do you think a lot of people refuse to allow God to be at the center of it because in order to have a foundation with him as the center and with him as that stronghold and like that righteous wing that the both of you run into and under as covering, people would then have to actually take accountability for their flaws, take accountability for sin, take accountability for the things that are antithetical or opposite of what would be beneficial for a relationship, take accountability for the things that might be ugly within themselves. And do you think that them turning to God and what's preventing them from doing that and allowing a relationship to blossom and to flourish with him as the center is because you brought up this word fear twice? Do you think it's because they do have fear of having to actually look within and having to release that ego and relinquish and surrender that control of always being right and always having to have the dominance and authority and not having to look within? Do you think that's what prevents them from running and actually going to God at the center?
I think that's partially what it is. I think people don't want to let go of their lifestyle. I think people want to, hop from person to person with no emotion and, no real connection. And when you hop into a relationship, people look back, I could, how many times you hear somebody like, oh man, it's so difficult being in this relationship. Like when I was single, I did this.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
And what's that remind you of? That reminds me of Lot in Genesis, of his wife when she turned around and she became a pillar of salt.
Yep.
Because she looked back and she wanted to be in Sodom and all the sinful, around all those sinful people, and had all these materialistic things that she put above herself in a relationship. She turned around, pillar of salt. And salt is funny. It's brought up multiple times in the Bible, the reference. I think God, think about it, it's a preservative, right?
Correct.
It could either be a preservative, or if it's
it can be
mixed
an
with dirt,
eroding factor.
or it can be an eroding factor. So, it speaks of two types of salt: a preservative, we could preserve faith, or it could just be used to take the weeds off of a ground in the olden days of a dirt road, right? So I think that's funny, and I think it's very powerful that he speaks of turning her into a pillar of salt. Is he speaking that he's made her, he's preserving who she is so she doesn't go back?
Correct.
Is he just turning her into dirt to better the road path to walk, for Lot to walk on? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. It goes very deep. But what I do know is that Lot's life was spared. He, not at no cost, he lost his wife. His children were upset. And he didn't look back. And he kept going forward. But I just think that people want to look back. They want to be single. They want to not do the hard things. It's comfort to be single. It's easy to be single, but to wake up every morning and day in and day out and just struggle with the person that you love and feel a sense of accomplishment is a totally different feeling than waking up and, figuring what friend to go out to have a drink with. And, how about battling over like trying to bring your kid into what school and celebrating his accomplishments with somebody. And there's just no comparison between having a partner in life and being single.
I'm going to tell you, as somebody who is single, it's not easy being single. It's not. And I don't look at relationships through the lens of jealousy at this point. I look at them through a lens of, this is something that I now strive to one day achieve, right?
What's your fear?
I don't have a fear.
What's holding you back?
I'm completely open. I am in a full mode of receive. At times I can be my own enemy. You know me better than anybody. Mm-hmm. You know me better than anybody.
Trying to get it out there.
Yeah, you know me better than anybody. And the problem is because I'm single in today's generation, and everything is all about complacency and everything is all about accessibility. And I have traveled my journey of really sitting with myself and understanding for so long, when I didn't know my own worth and I didn't know my own value and I didn't know my own self-love. Now that I have been able to obtain all of that, it's hard for me to be in a position with somebody, not that I need them at equal level or equal caliber. It's hard now because if and when I do talk to most people, I notice right away, also because of my line of work, that there's a lot of self-deprecation and degradation inside of them. And I'm at the point now where peace to me, my relationship with myself and my relationship with God and my relationship as a servant to those in my life around me because of my work, that takes precedence over having to feel the need to cater to somebody else's lack of inability or desire to want to reflect within themselves. That's what really holds me back. And at times, don't get me wrong, I can be judgmental about it, and I'm fully aware of that.
Judge and be judged.
Be judged and be judged. And my life has been nothing but of judgment towards me. So
it's funny that you would.
And you're right. And this is why I'm fully aware of my own flaws, right? Because, and this is something I said in last episode, I am the furthest thing from perfect. I'm marred. I am sinful. I'm aware of my sins.
Let's pause right there, though, right? Let's pause right there.
Pause.
So you're aware of your sins. What if somebody comes up to you and judges you from how you look, which
It happens all the time.
right. You have to be honest here. Have you done that? Let's say you were going to go out with somebody. Have you judged them before you went out with them?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, would it be easier if you gave them a chance? You'd have more options if you gave somebody a chance and just
let me ask you this, right? So let's say what you might look at as judgment and what I'm looking at as an agreed upon sentiment for right now. There are also things that when conversations are happening that could elicit feelings of discomfort, right? And I think because of my communication pattern and style and being open, when I'm hearing over and over, and what deters me from wanting to engage with a lot of people is I feel, so I don't want to ever come off like this is a fact, but I feel like a lot of people are complacent in comfort in this generational trauma of victimhood. And they use a lot of what's happened to them as a ploy and as a stronghold as to this is how I am, and yes, I'm working on it, but I don't know if I'm ready to do all of the work. If I hear you're not ready to do all of the work, then that means that whatever could possibly come from the sanctity of our relationship together means that you're not in the position or place to want to put your best foot forward, not for me, but for yourself. And if you're not going to show up as the best version of yourself, then how can you expect me to pour into you to bring out the best version of yourself?
Yeah, but I think sometimes people need a catalyst for them to...
You're 1,000% correct. And I think, again, going back to what I said originally, there are times where I am my own worst enemy. And I'm not looking for perfection because that's the last thing in the world that I am. I am not a perfect partner. I'm not a perfect man. I'm not a perfect human being. I am flawed. There are things about me which could definitely rub people the wrong way. There are times where, not that I am overly opinionated, but I am definitely hell-bent on a certain assertion of thought, okay? And I'm a little bit unwilling to bend if I really feel in my heart or soul that it's the quote-unquote right thing. And because of that, it puts me in a position at times maybe to block off what potentially could be a blessing. And I'm so aware of this, you know? And I think realistically, it's not that I'm in fear, because I'm in a constant mode of receive. And I love love. And I think love is the most beautiful thing that two people could share together. I think what happens when you fall in love with somebody, I think you're also falling in love with a version of yourself that hasn't existed. So as you're falling in love with that person, you're also becoming somebody that you've never been. And it's the best version of yourself.
Or you're showing somebody a part that you've never showed.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, or maybe something inside of you that you didn't even know was there, though.
Right.
You know? And it's horrifying to fall in love because you're giving somebody the power to break you. You're giving somebody the power to destroy and dismantle you. And most importantly, you're giving somebody the power to see your monsters, to see your darkness, to see your demons, to see the things that you wear a mask on for the rest of the public, but you strip yourself emotionally naked in front of that person. And you can only hope that they love your darkness as much as they love your light. Falling in love is the most horrifying thing in the world, but high risk, high reward, right? I'm all for taking that risk. I do believe, though, that maybe there are times where I am unwilling to meet somebody at a certain depth where my judgment, again, my own flaw, my own issue, my judgment sees or interprets what they're saying as an unwillingness to do the work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack here.
I know. I agree.
I don't think high risk, high reward. I think the risk lies in being alone and not showing yourself to somebody, because the less you show yourself to somebody, the less they're going to help you heal yourself. And I think each relationship, whether it fails or not, will teach you something. I think you have to not be so comfortable with yourself. And I'm not saying that you're comfortable with yourself, but you have to not be so comfortable with yourself where you can you could show yourself, your true self, to another person, and leave it in God's hands. That's where faith comes.
100%.
And you know, what you're saying is you don't want to, you know, take that mask off and have,
No. That's not what I'm saying. I want to take my mask off, and anyone who...
You say it's the scariest thing in the world.
It is scary. It's horrifying, but I will strip myself of all my masks. You see me with no mask.
Right.
Anyone who meets me, they don't get a mask. People who meet me and have a conversation with me, they get to see me.
Mm-hmm.
The horrifying part of falling in love is letting somebody see me and showing them all of me, and then being left.
Yeah.
After
the fear
seeing
of abandonment and
you know, and
not
I'm
being accepted.
And the thing is I look at this from two lenses. I genuinely love myself, and it took me 33 years to get to that point. So if somebody is to fall in love with me and I am to fall in love with them and they leave me tomorrow, I believe that's part of God's plan. I believe that every season happens for a reason, and every lesson always can take away a blessing, always. So I'm not fearful of being left or rejected. Falling in love is just a scary thing no matter what, because there's always the fear of the unknown. But what a beautiful place to be in also, because you can create on a blank canvas from the unknown, you know?
Yeah, I think if God has put somebody in your path, and whether it's a date with somebody or, you know, just somebody you bump into on the street that you're attracted to, I think that's an opportunity for you to show yourself to that person. And in doing so, I think that fear will dwindle more and more, because you realize that it doesn't matter what that person thinks.
So let me ask you a question. Okay? You want to be Mr. Question. Let me ask you a question.
Listen.
No, but let me ask you. Hold on. No. It's okay. Let me ask you a question.
Show's over.
Let me ask you a question. You have built something beautiful. I have seen the two of you interact, and it's beautiful. Okay? She came to our baptism together, ate chicken with us after.
She did eat chicken.
She did eat the chicken. I've gotten to be blessed by you, by both of you being in my life and showing me what's possible. Okay? But were you not ever in the moment where you felt fear or having a sense of what happens if all of this is built and something goes wrong? Isn't that a natural way? And I'm not saying it's a good way, because God convicts, the devil condemns. I don't believe that fear and anxiety is a feeling that God himself gives us. I feel like that's part of our flesh and that's part of our sin. But you're going to tell me at no point building something with this amazing partner that you have, that you never once felt fear in doing something brand new? What about going to somebody's house for holidays, bro? Okay?
I've never felt fear at all.
Okay, dog.
All right. Okay.
Like, you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a similar fear because we have similar, not exactly like identical, but similar backgrounds. Yeah, I mean, it's the scariest thing in the world. Someone's going to abandon you. But if you don't ever give yourself to somebody, I don't think that you're already abandoned. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Now, granted, listen, you always have God, and if you truly believe that Jesus is your Lord and Savior, then everything that happens is going to make you stronger. Everything. And then he's going to get you through that abandonment if somebody leaves you. That's not the right person, but I guarantee you're going to learn something from that person. The worst person in the world could teach you the most beautiful lesson.
Look how you and I have met.
Right?
Okay? You met me in what I would consider, post trying to take my own life, meeting somebody else that you got to watch break me over and over and over.
And look how strong you are now.
Exactly. You know? So that's why I said every lesson, if you look for it, because there's always a takeaway, has a blessing. I can't ever look at one relationship I've been in, ever. Even the one from high school. That relationship, I can truly say, she was the only woman who I know through and through really loved me because she had me at my worst, like my real worst, because she got to see all of that. It was right after all of my assaults. You know, it was right after somebody decided to flip me off when I was crying at a party.
That's interesting.
It was interesting, right?
Yeah, I wonder who that was.
It was that woman, and her life has blossomed into something so beautiful. But I look at what I did to her for 3 years, and I can look back at that, and I know how wrong I was for everything. I take away nothing but the most amazing, amazing lessons from that. You know, even the last one who I was with, raising her child. I never wanted kids before I met her. I was going to get a vasectomy.
Right.
And my friend from kindergarten, the only kid that I spoke to throughout my whole life, he's like, if you get a vasectomy, we're not talking anymore. So I canceled it. Raising that little girl, having her move in with me, calling me a father, letting me hold her while she was having a panic attack, crying with her when she was in pain. And for her to even still text me months ago that she went on her first date and the guy held the door open for her. For me, that's, for me, not wanting kids and going into knowing that being a father is the most important thing in my life now because of that last relationship, because I learned to love in ways that were never human, that I thought were never humanly possible. I will take away something good from everything. So I'm not fearful of something ending. I'm not fearful of giving myself to somebody. I think what's holding me back is just my own stupidity, and I admit that.
Mm-hmm. It's forgiveness. It's forgiving yourself. It's forgiving the people who have hurt you, and I mean truly forgiving, because once you forgive those people and you forgive yourself, first and foremost forgive yourself, then there's no fear. Then you're vulnerable to everybody. You're not hiding to anybody. And we talked last episode about wearing that mask every day. If you never have the mask on, the people in your life who are going to accept you are just the people who are going to accept you. And I'd rather know that right when I meet them. You know what I mean? So if, you know, you're going out and there's this girl and there's this opportunity to go on a date, go on the date. Worst case scenario, you make a good friend or you learn something about yourself. And you know, forgive whoever hurt you in the past, or thank them, right? Thank them. I mean, you learned that you wanted to be a father.
Yep.
I mean, think about that for a second. I just talked about the only way to become a man is to have a child. That kid taught you that you deserve to be a man. Correct. You deserve to be a father, right? And I don't think that there's a purpose in life without kids. I don't think there's a purpose in life without a family unit. And I think the hardest part of being single or not being married with a family unit is that you're constantly floundering and wondering, like, is this gonna hurt? Is this gonna be terrible? Is this gonna hurt me? Is this person gonna hurt me? But then once you have kids, I think all that fear goes away, right? Like now you
live for the kids.
You live for the kids. You're tied to that person. You just want to do what's right. And I think all that ego is shed. You're just gonna be like, listen, I love you, and because I love you, I love this, and I'll do anything to make it work.
Well, you would think that most people would think like that, right? Sadly, we do live in a generation where people are having kids left and right and then hating one another, and then the kids wind up suffering from the parents' inability to show up not only for the children, but for each other and for themselves.
Right.
And now these kids squander and they suffer,
well,
you know?
There's no faith. You have to have God in the center of that relationship.
And that's why I asked you at the beginning, what is it that you feel is the most important reason? And if I had to take a guess now, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not you, I would say what I'm hearing is that you feel not only having God is the most important thing for you and your partner, but also for the potentiality of having children.
Absolutely. I think God is also a moral compass for when the kids are growing up. And I think that it shows you to be vulnerable. It shows you that there's somebody or something that loves you. I think it shows you that no matter what happens, everything's going to be okay. Everything's happening for a reason. Everything's going to work out exactly how it's supposed to work out. I think, it's us who pushes from God unintentionally and falls into sin. And believing in God will help you strip that that doubt that this is the right person.
Yep.
Especially if they're on that same path with you. A lot of Christians do vows of celibacy, and they get to know each other before they get married, and then they get to have that wedding night and the rest of their lives to enjoy each other. And you're not just becoming vulnerable to all different people and becoming numb to like this holy covenant, you know what I mean? And so when God is just in the middle of everything, you feel convicted for the bad things that you're doing or the sinful things that you're doing. And because you want to be a better person yourself, the relationship's going to work. It's just going to work, especially if two people want God to be proud of them, and they want to do the right thing. You're never going to fall. And if you do, he'll pick you up. You'll carry that cross and you'll just keep walking. Or he'll carry it for you. But you have to have real faith. And you have to not be doing anything for manipulation. You have to be doing it because it's true love for him, for your significant other, for your family. And every morning that you wake up, you just want to be a little better. You want to sin a little bit less, and you want to appreciate what God's given you. And I think there's a point in both of our lives where we've hit a wall and we're like, this is just a rerun.
This ain't it.
Yeah, it's a rerun.
Yeah.
Yep. Right? And I've seen this episode so many times.
Well, see, that's where I'm at, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very easy for me to see that rewind now. And I know it because my body responds to it. Everyone talks about the word of God, right? I don't hear people talking about the feeling of God. And I believe that I'm spoken to by God by what my body feels when I'm in that rewind moment, when I'm in a situation where I know it's contradictive towards something that I'm truly working on that could set me back. And I believe that's when I'm being spoken to, which when I start to feel convicted, that's when a lot of the times, although it might come off like judgment, a lot of the times I go based off what my body's telling me,
And I think that you have to try to decipher whether you're feeling like convicted towards like talking to somebody or you're just putting up a trigger or a wall. And that's scary because it's a lie that you could judge somebody the second you see them, unless it's like some crazy circumstance where they're doing something that you just don't want to be a part of.
100%.
Again, the story of Lot hanging around all the people in Sodom, and they're all just materialistic, money-hungry sinners. And if you're hanging around that, then even if you're not a bad person, you become a sinner, right? Or a bad person.
I think,
and again, I don't think that's who you're meeting. I don't think
you don't think I'm meeting sinners, or you don't think I'm meeting people like Lot.
I don't think you're meeting. I can't speak for everybody, but I don't think you're meeting people who are necessarily like intentionally bad. I think maybe
you are 1,000% correct. At this point in my life, the people who I attract are not intentionally bad, because the energy, the authenticity, what I radiate out, the light that I radiate out, I'm not bringing in people who have malicious intent or severe darkness. This is why I said before, I am fully aware of my flaws.
Well, it's funny how you've healed, and the quality or the caliber of person that you're bringing into your life is also, gone greater, has been a better person because of you, right? It's parallel.
Of course.
So it's the law of attraction.
You'll always meet people at the same pain frequency that you're in, and you're always going to attract people at the same depth and the same light that you're going to give out. You keep bringing up like Lot in the Genesis, and I don't think people truly understand the true notion of intimacy that starts in Genesis. Like, you're talking about post-fall of man, right? And I think what a lot of people need to understand is when you go back in the book of Genesis and you look at what God had created for both male and female, that equal and reciprocity of being a counterpart of one another is unbelievably important. You didn't have Adam and Eve looking around, looking for something greater outside of what they had. They had one another. They had dominion over the land. They were given command to create cultivation and to rule in synchronicity with one another. No one was bringing in ego into the relationship. No one was bringing in lust into the relationship. It was the perfect. What do you think?
Well, there was an apple involved.
Well, okay, so can I actually say something about that? Because I do feel like most men need to understand this. Eve was not the one that ruined the world. It was men. And I'm going to say this very explicitly. God told Adam not to eat that apple. Eve was not told not to eat that apple. Eve was not told not to eat that apple. Eve went over to the tree, okay? And the serpent told Eve to eat the apple. Eve went back to Adam.
Yeah, but the serpent told Eve to eat the apple because what did he say? He said, God doesn't want you to bite the apple because he doesn't want you to
You're
see.
not listening. You're like, I'm hearing you, okay? I'm hearing you. But the fall...
Don't make me go after Eve.
The fall of man is because of man. It's not because of Eve. Adam's role... Adam's role...
It's because of sin.
Adam's role was to lead Eve in that moment. When Eve came over with the apple, when she had no knowledge of not being able to eat this apple after God had already directed Adam not to eat it, this dude took the apple and munched into it. That was the fall of man. That's where sin, brokenness, and wickedness was created. He should have slapped that apple out of Eve's hand and said, nah, we ain't doing this. But he didn't do that. He willingly conformed into sin, which is why the world had broken after that. Eve was not directed by God not to eat it. Adam was. Adam's job was to give Eve that directive when she had came over with the apple. Adam failed us, by the way, not Eve. So if you want to go back and forth about this, I'll do this with you.
I don't think it's a person who failed us. I think it's sin.
Sin did, yes.
It's a serpent. As a man or woman, you could sit here all day and just, give one point of view or another. I don't think I think it's a sin thing. I think that we're just human, and it's a human thing. It's not a man or woman. It's a human thing. And because we're human, we were already riddled with sin, whether that was the moment we had sin, which it is because the world was a different place. But we're not God. So we're going to always have some sort of sin or bite the apple, if you will, man or woman. I think it's a human thing. It's not a man or woman thing.
It is a sin thing. I'm just letting everybody know that Adam should have slapped that apple. Okay, Adam should have slapped that apple.
Where was he when she was biting that apple?
I don't know where. He was probably butt naked, cropping the fields.
Ground. Yeah, I mean, he was definitely butt naked.
He was butt naked, hanging with his wang, just cropping the fields, bro.
He had a leaf.
No, there was no leaf.
No?
No, because
there was a leaf.
There was no leaf because when they went and when they went and covered up with the leaf, God said, "Who told you you were naked?" That's when they had the leaf. He did say that.
Yeah.
That's when Adam put the leaf on. So they were hiding in the woods, and God was calling to them, and they came out. He's like, "Yo, who told you you guys were naked?" So again, you're right. Sin is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Eve nor Adam was the problem, but the fall of man.
Why don't you have the pain of childbirth, though?
Why do I not have the pain of childbirth?
Like why was Eve the one who was granted that blessing of the pain of childbirth?
where you going?
That's what he gave.
Well, hold on.
Punishment was for the fight.
Hold on. I'm going to answer this, okay, because that's an incredible interpretation.
What do you mean?
First of all, okay, maybe, okay? Maybe this was punishment for originally sinking her teeth in the apple. But I believe, again, you and I were talking at the beginning, and I had asked you if it would be okay to introduce something scripturally into this. And I'm going to give you an example as to why Eve was given the blessing, okay, of bearing children. When God calls himself Azir, okay? When God had created woman from Adam's rib, she was known as a Azir. And Azir means rescuer. It means strength applied, and it means force alongside battle, okay? There's another word that went with Azir, and I can't think of it right now, but that means of equal strength but different. It also means counterpart. So what the actual definition of woman is in Hebrew is standing face to face of equal strength. That's why women were given the blessing of bearing children, because our strengths in life were different. Now, could it be punishment for biting that apple?
I thought,
yes,
did
maybe.
he not say that the pain of child, now you will be given the pain of childbirth?
Listen, yes, but all I'm saying is,
I'm just saying.
But maybe,
Sin.
okay.
So we all have pains and saying,
I don't think men, but you know what? I don't think men could deal with childbirth pain. You and I get sick and we're probably in bed, 10 blankets, and we're whining the whole time.
Guy.
I'm not a blanket guy either. I get too hot.
Yeah.
Like I'm hot in this right now, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know
get
why.
sick either.
I get
one time. COVID.
Yeah, okay. One time.
Yeah.
One time. I know that men could not handle childbirth pain, just so we're clear, okay? I stubbed my pinky toe. I'm out for a week, okay? That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. Listen, I don't know. I'm not even going to banter back and forth. You say he's sticking up for you, women.
I'm just saying, okay? But I was
good man. I wasn't saying anything here. The men, women. I was trying to keep it neutral.
But yes, that is why she got the pain of childbirth.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine us popping a baby out of that thing, but that's neither here nor there.
No, that's brutal.
If you have,
thank you.
Thank you. If you were to give some like advice to your younger self, because this was a question that I actually wanted to ask earlier before we went off on a tangent. If you were to give advice to your younger self about the importance of having God in your relationship now, right? So you're in your 30s. If you were to speak to your 20-year-old self, what is it that you would say to him? Now, granted, he might not have listened.
Yeah, right.
Okay. But what would you try and say to him?
In regards to
having a relationship that is solely centered around the importance of having faith, servitude to one another, and God.
Well, first I would have probably told myself to study, to understand Scripture, so I could better understand myself and the reason why the things that are happening to me are happening. That would give me the ability to shed ego and maybe give somebody a chance. Granted, you know, would I listen that's a big question. I would say that it's the only thing that matters in a relationship. The only thing that matters is if you're following God, because without that, I mean, granted, it's not the only thing, but it's the most important thing, because if you're not following God, you're going to fall apart. You're going to fall apart. There's no doubt about it. God is love, and without him, you're not going to have love. You're not going to fall in true love. And if both of you aren't walking in the direction of love, you're going to feel broken. You're going to feel confused. You're going to feel tempted by lust. You're going to feel tempted by, any other sin, greed. You're going to be chasing materialistic things. I would just say, listen, fall in love with God, fall in love with yourself, and then find somebody. And, but really, if you want the truth, I wouldn't have said anything. The path that I fell on, I walked down, was the path that I was supposed to be on. Yes. So every lesson I learned for a reason. It was that powerful and that hard for a reason. I'm grateful for the lessons that I was given. And I would just say, I would just say, hang in there. The answers are going to come to you, and they're going to hurt. They're going to come to you like a hurricane, and you're not going to think you're going to make it out. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. You're going to meet the most amazing people, and you're going to appreciate where you are, because God is love, and he's going to show you love right when you're old enough, right when you're wise enough to experience it and accept it. He's going to give it to you. Trust the process.
Do you think that where you're currently at now, that there's still going to be chapters, not similar to what you went through, right, but of equal caliber and of equal necessary wisdom to be learned from? I know getting married is a new chapter, having kids is a new chapter, things like that. But the lessons that you and I were both fortunate enough to take away from our pasts, from our wounds, our neglect, our abandonment, our abuse, our everything, right? Our anger, our self-hatred, everything that we've been able to take away.
Oh, that victim mentality.
Everything we've taken away has made us us.
Mm-hmm.
And I constantly wonder to myself, what now? I'm wise, I'm smart, I love, I'm light. What now? And I know life can create a storm. God will always engineer a transition, a transgression. He will crumble things that you have going on over here and purposely kick you into another place over there when this place no longer serves, right? Because you have to go through things that you don't want to go through to become the man that you need to be in places that you must go to, right? So what else for you then at this point do you think is next with your lessons, and how much more do you think you have to learn in this life when you've already learned so much?
I think I have a lot. I think I have a lot to learn. I think through my children, that's a whole new chapter that I haven't even begun to explore.
You're going to be a good dad.
I appreciate that. I think we'll both be good fathers.
Yeah.
I hope.
I don't hope. You're going to be a good dad.
I know there's going to be a learning curve. I know that I'm ready for that step. But I can't sit here and tell you that I know what else I have to learn, because I'm sure God's lessons are going to be plentiful, and some are going to be unbearing, and some are going to be seemingly unnecessary, and some are going to be amazing and beautiful. But I could tell you that I'm prepared for them. I could tell you that I'm willing to learn more. I could tell you that I know nothing. I could tell you that everything that I have learned through my pain and through great things that have happened to me is hopefully just happening so I can make my child or my children better people.
Are you faithful to your suffering?
In what sense?
When it comes and finds you, do you want it to find you faithful and worthy of it and appreciative of it? Are you faithful to your suffering? Do you embrace it and endure it with open arms? Is there restraint for it at this point? When pain or suffering or hardship or obstacles or closed doorways come and they come knocking on you, do you meet suffering with a mindset of appreciation and gratitude and joy and worthiness and thankfulness? Or at this point, is there still a little bit of hesitancy? Because you said that there will be times where the lessons are fruitful, right? And there will be times where some of them are probably seemingly meaningless, okay, but probably extremely painful. So I'm wondering, when suffering comes knocking again, because it will on both of us, it's inevitable, right? When pain comes knocking again, does it find you faithful to it and open and appreciative of it?
I'd say yes, in the sense that I'm able to handle it better. I have faith that I'm going to be able to take that lesson and, pick up my cross and walk through that storm and come out the other end. And if I drop it, I know that God will help me pick it up.
Through everything that you've been through, everything that you've overcame, everything that you have accomplished, every version of yourself that you have went to war with and dismantled, and all of your shattered pieces in life that you have put back together and created this beautiful masterpiece of a human being that you give, and you are selfless and you serve everybody. When suffering finds you, when pain finds you, do you meet it with a sense of being worthy of it at this point?
Oh, I know I'm worthy, and I know that there's a lesson on the other end.
Beautiful.
Am I going to greet it with open arms? I'm not going to break.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try to be the strongest version of myself and remember what I went through and know what I'm capable of, and know that there is a lesson in this. I will know that, and I have been tested and know that. depending on the lesson, I mean, yeah, it might break me for a couple of days, but I want to let those emotions hit me.
Do you think having this woman in your life who is so centered around faith with you is going to make having that kind of pain easier to cope and handle? Having somebody to finally lean on and trust that you are safe emotionally with, do you think that allowing her to hold that weight for you, do you think that will make the pain, in a sense, easier for you now to cope with a teammate?
I think the fact that I'm willing to be vulnerable around her, and she's willing to, so it's a lot easier to suffer with somebody than alone.
Yep.
You know, it will definitely help me, and I won't be judged by her. I won't be looked at as weak by her. I'll be looked at as somebody who's going through another battle, and he's going to get through this, and she's going to, you know, build me up like a teammate and tell me that it's going to be better. I think that's one of the reasons I love her. I think that, yeah, I think that I'm going to let all my emotions come and hit me with open arms. I think that I'm going to walk through the storm. I think it's going to be easier to be with somebody, and I think I owe it to the world to not react like I used to, and to be, you know, thankful for whatever's to come from the lesson that I'm learning. I owe it to God, you know, but what kind of lesson is he going to give me? Man, I didn't want to be. I don't think he gives you lessons, but will he help me through it? I think he'll help me through it.
So let me ask you a question. What do you mean he doesn't give you lessons?
He doesn't test me. I mean, test me. I didn't say lessons. I think he doesn't test. He doesn't test me. God doesn't.
Do you
test.
think you don't think God tests?
I don't know. God doesn't test.
You don't think God
tests all
tests?
the time? No.
Okay, so can I challenge that?
Yeah, if you want.
Okay, so Book of Job, he intentionally tested Job to prove
the devil tested him, and then
God allowed the devil to test him. Remember, devil went to God, and God said, "Go ahead, test my faithful servant."
Yeah.
So he does test.
Yeah, but with worldly things, that was he took his wealth. He took
his children. He took his health. He took his wealth. He took more than just his riches. He burned his flesh pretty much off of his body and left him with boils. And everyone around him was telling him that he must have done something to bring all this on.
To me? But then he gave it back.
And then God's looking down at him like, "Yo, dog, why not you?"
Well, he said, "Don't question me." Right?
Yeah.
Maybe he's testing me. I don't know.
So, you know, like, again,
I just don't think the motivation behind the testing is really
I think the motivation, I don't ever believe that God does anything in bad motive when he is testing and putting somebody through a storm, ever. You know, who was it? Jonah that got in the boat and tried to steer away from his calling and his mission, and God's like, "Yeah, okay, son, let's see if that works."
Yeah.
And then sets that storm out, and Jonah came coming back. Like, you know, he's constantly, in my opinion, not that I believe that God gives the strongest battles to the strongest soldiers. I think that's a cliche that has been created to make other people feel good about what they go through. I do believe that God will intentionally test and create situations and scenarios, one, to test obedience, and two, God will never call those that are gifted. He always gifts those that he will personally call, right? So if you and I are called for something, and you and I have been called for something, okay, we have went through the ringer. We have went through absolute hell. We have white-knuckled ourselves through the fires of this world. I believe those were intentional testings. I believe that we had to prove that we were worthy of suffering for that because of the light that you and I give off to the world around us and what we're able to produce, that fruit that we're able to produce now, and the love that we're able to generate, and the gifts that we're able to generate in spirit and joy and abundance and happiness, not for ourselves, but for everybody else. You and I have gotten as close as we possibly can to divinity to some extent, and now we disperse it to our fellow man with everyone that we meet. We couldn't do that unless we were tested. That's my own
But you think the devil's sitting there whispering to God, put him through that?
Not always. I believe that we do.
Well, that was the case with Job.
When you're favored by God, you're favored by the devil. Okay? That's just a fact. A thief is not going to break in to an empty house and try and rob something. You and I have gifts. The devil is going to constantly knock on our door. We're going to constantly be tempted by him because what we have to offer this world is so important and such and profound for God's mission for us that we are going to be one of the devil's greatest adversaries. So the fact that we have been favored by God, we are also favored by the devil. I don't believe that the devil will always go to God like he did with Job and say, hey, can I test this faithful servant of yours? I do believe that God will engineer storms in your life, though, when you are acting against his will. So if you're with somebody who's not good for you, God is going to do everything in his power to dismantle that relationship. She will cheat on you. He will cheat on you. You will constantly find things out. And the more that you keep going back, the more those storms are going to hit.
I think the devil tests the best relationships. I think the more you fall towards God, I think it's the harder the relationship is.
100%. That doesn't mean that your partner is out there philandering or cheating, though.
No.
I'm talking
different battles.
Different battles. The battles will be different, but you will always be tested by both. Always. And I don't believe that the testing is a test of, let me see what's in this dude's soul from God. I believe
God knows what's in your heart. Exactly.
Okay? Pay not attention to what is on the outside or this man's height. God always pays attention to what the man's character in the heart is. I forgot what, I think that's a Luke scripture, but I could be wrong. But the point that I'm making is what we might look at as a test is God intentionally crumbling something in your life to bring out glory and to bring out the greatness that is innately inside of you that we at times waste being in the wrong place in the wrong time.
Right.
That's what I mean by maybe being tested.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in the wrong place, we just, we went over this. It just brings you down,
of course,
brings your light, and makes you less than. But you could spend your entire life in the wrong place and then step out one day and realize you wasted everything.
You look at
I
this.
think that's a lot of people.
Well, you look at this analogy that sometimes the devil will bless you with everything in life: riches, lust, women, fame, glory. But really what's happening is you're sitting in a prison cell that's super comfortable.
Door wide open.
Door wide open. And it prevents you from turning to God until eventually that cell door slams. And now it's too late. However, I don't ever believe it's too late to turn to God. I don't ever believe it's too late to look up and to give your heart and your repentance and your soul and your being over to him. But I do believe that some people will mistake their life for the blessings, okay, I'm using quotation marks for those that can't see, blessings that they are coming from God when their whole life has been built off sin, not realizing that the cage is actually one from the devil.
And it's never too late.
That's never too late.
Yeah, I mean, on the cross, the thief and the murderer we talked about last time, never too late.
My guy,
I
will meet you there.
It's never too late.
So,
my guy,
sending this off, if you had to give one piece of advice to somebody, maybe who's struggling in a relationship right now, maybe who's trying to find their way, right? Trying to find their way in faith. Maybe they're with somebody and one of them is faithful to God and the other one is, negligent of it. What would you offer being in the situation that you're in? Because again, I can't offer advice in there.
I think you can offer advice, but I would offer the advice of fellowship. I'd say surround yourself with, more religious people, more honest people, more and people with the right motives, and people who are honestly love God for God. And if you surround yourself with those people, you'll start feeling that Holy Spirit build up in you, and you'll start feeling convictions when you're doing things wrong. And if we're speaking to the person who's in the relationship with someone who is of faith and someone who's not, the person who's not, just give it a try. Go to church. Every day that you get closer and closer to God, you're going to become better and better as a person, less of a sinner, maybe more in love with that girlfriend, and she'll respect you more. And there's never going to be regret in walking towards God, walking towards the light. There'll never be regret. But at the end of the day, when you're laying on the hospital bed and you see a beautiful wife who tried to give you, you know, God from day one, and you ignored her, and now the only person that you're going to be answering to in about 10 minutes is God, I think that's a place I don't want to be.
100%.
So I think walk towards God, try to find somebody, or if you're with somebody, you know, maybe go to church together, go to temple together, and try to make God centered in your faith, because it's the most beautiful thing in the world, and it's the only thing that ever made me fall in love truly, head over heels with somebody, and I'm just super grateful that he's done that for me and continues to give me blessings that I had no idea were coming. So I hope he does that for you too.
I'm proud of you.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, babe.
Love you.
Love you too.
Will you be absolutely genuine with me? No deception, please. I want you to do something that expresses you without the slightest deception.